In this video, we are going to find the numerical charge of oxygen when it meets the octet rule. Okay, so our way we find the numerical charge when it is meeting the octet rule, and later you will see this when we do bonding, is very similar to the way we figure out if it's a cation or anion. Our first step is to find the number of valence electrons for oxygen. And so oxygen is the symbol O. It's right here. And oxygen is in the column with 6 valence electrons. And so we can go ahead and we know that it'll have 6 valence electrons. Our second step is to figure out if it's gaining and will be an anion, so it'll be negative, or is it losing electrons, so it'll be a cation and positive. And so because it has 6 valence electrons, we know it is close to 8, and it's on that gaining side because it is close to 8. And so it is gaining electrons, which means it's an anion. And because it's an anion, that means it'll have a negative charge because we are adding on negative electrons. So what we know so far is that oxygen has 6 valence electrons. It is gaining valence electrons to meet octet rule. And because it is gaining electrons, we call that an anion because it has a negative overall charge. And it's negative overall because we're adding on negative particles. So our last step is how much is it gaining or losing to meet the octet rule? And so we know it has 6 valence electrons and it's gaining. So how many more is it gaining to get to 8? And so we can do just count to get to 8. So to get to 8 from 6, we would just add 2. And so we are gaining 2 electrons. And how do we get the numerical charge from this? Well, remember our numerical charge is it positive or negative, and then the number of electrons gained or lost. And so in our case, we know it is going to be negative. So we're going to write a negative sign. And then we also know that it is going to be gaining 2 electrons. And so the number would be 2. Our overall charge when we gain electrons is going to be negative 2.